Guys, welcome back. I'm Samcrac, and this is the Porsche 911 rebuild project. And if you've been following along, you know that we got stuck in a bit of a screwy situation. One of our caliper bolts got completely stuck in the front steering knuckle, right here on the passenger side. I attempted to remove it with a ton of penetrating oil. We applied a lot of heat to it. I even went out and bought a welder and welded a nut on the top of the threads, tried to turn it off. We ended up just breaking off the rest of the thread, clean in the steering knuckle. Now, no big deal. I just figured we'd go buy ourselves a new used replacement part. So I hopped on eBay, and the first one I found, check this out, still has a piece of the screw in it, just like ours did. A lot of guys commented, taught me something new, that the reason this screw got stuck in the steering knuckle is because of a process called galling. Guess over time, these two metals can basically cold weld themselves together, making them impossible to remove. Basically, your only solution at this point is to drill out that old bolt. So I started looking into a helicoil set. A helicoil is what you use after you drill out an old bolt and you end up damaging the original threads that are in our steering knuckle. The funny thing is, a helicoil set that matched the specific set of our OEM Porsche screw costs almost $60, which is only about $9 less than the going price of a used steering knuckle. Then I found for $35 a complete set of helicoils with a bunch of different taps, a bunch of different sizes, and I thought it would be a great set to have, and I could use it to repair this knuckle. The only problem was the thread pitch was off a little bit from the factory size, which is no big deal. I just went out to the store and I found the same length and size bolt with the different thread pitch to fit the helicoil. Now, I've thrown out a lot of technical terms here, but I think you'll understand it by the time I'm done showing you how our helicoil repair went. Right now we're using a big drill bit for the helicoil, so I got to be really accurate. We're going to drill a new hole over our existing hole right here. This is the part we cannot screw up. We're tapping the hole. I got the tap started here. I'm just going to go slowly in and out until it makes its way all throughout the hole. Then we'll be able to helicoil it. You can see now the tap has made it all the way through, so we can back it out and get it ready for the helicoil. Now it's time for the fun part. Each size comes with a baggie of these threaded inserts. Right here is the correct threaded insert. You can see it's got that tang on the underside, no tang on the top. We're going to take the tool that you insert it with, take the helicoil, slide it in, and the tang will insert in the notch here in the tool. And then we're just going to go thread it in there. I am just going to do this. This is unnecessary, but I'm going to put a tiny bit of red thread locker on it. That might just keep things a little bit more secure. You can see we've got new threads in there. Now the tang is still left underneath there. It's really simple. There's another tool that comes in the kit. That tool is this simple punch. We're just going to put it up against the tang, tap it with a hammer, and break the tang off, and you're done. I hope you guys enjoyed the tutorial on how to helicoil something, because it was completely useless. Basically, our top hole is not square with the bottom hole down here, which means that the brake caliper is rubbing against the rotor. So right now we're going to go ahead and remove our knuckle completely. I ordered a replacement. It was 69 bucks. And boy, I'm not looking forward to replacing a lot of this stuff, because as I went and tried to remove the ABS wire here, also just one of the screws holding in this bracket here for the brake line, the screw completely just sheared apart. You can't see that, but it's sheared apart in there. You could probably see that right there. This thing is just disintegrating before me. And look, I'm using tools like a ratcheting wrench. I'm not using a breaker bar on those tiny little fasteners. So this will end up coming out. It won't be a big deal, but we're gonna have to order quite a bit more parts than I thought. Luckily, they're cheap parts. To find out exactly what parts we need to order, we need to break a few more of them. So let's go ahead and remove our knuckle. Knuckle came out really simply, no different than the procedure on any other car. And when I was undoing all the links that connect to the knuckle, I noticed that pretty much everything was shot. Look at this sway bar end link right here. It's completely busted open. Anything with a ball joint in it is toast, needs to be replaced. The good news is I've got all brand new parts for the suspension sitting right over here. That's big thanks to the guys over at FCP Euro. When I initially called them, told them about the budget 996 project, and I really just asked them for a bunch of brake stuff and a couple common maintenance items. They said, well, what does the front suspension look like? And I said, it looks like it's all original, but let's just go with the brakes. So they said, no, if you're doing the brakes, you're gonna wanna do a front suspension refresh kit. Now they've got experts that bundle kits together that give you exactly what you need, because they know that at around 100,000 miles or at the point where you're doing front suspension components, the other components you do along with them so that you're not disassembling things 2 and 3 times to replace stuff in the same area. So they provided this kit for both corners of the front suspension. I'm really glad that they did, because it is shot. Be sure to check out FCP Euro at the link in the description box below if you ever happen to be working on any sort of European car. They only sell high quality parts. The prices are way more competitive than the dealer and a lot of other sites online. On top of it, everything, and I'm talking about everything on their site, is backed by a lifetime guarantee. I've explained it a million times. If you want to know more about it, just check them out. Another huge update for the 996 is that FCP Euro got in touch with Sachs, which is a German suspension component company that is an OEM supplier on Porsches, and they are hooking up a coilover kit for our 996 build project. It should give this car a completely new feel, because if you look at the suspension that's in it right now, all the shocks appear to be original, and if they're original, they've got over 100,000 miles on them. So big thanks to FCP Euro for hooking that up and making this car a true autocross monster. You can see at this point I got all the front cooling system hooked up, and my goal for this video was to have the front suspension completely assembled, the rear suspension and brake system completely assembled, and put this car on the ground so we could drive it out of here and start doing our body work in this lower area. Once I became aware of all the issues in the front corner suspension and some of the parts that I broke, I went and I said, all right, we're just gonna do this. We're gonna move over to the rear end. We're gonna do our brakes in the back end, and then we're gonna lower this car on the ground, because when we repair this, we're gonna use a slide hammer. We don't want the car falling off the jack stand as we're pulling on it. You can see this turned out really nice. The brakes are gorgeous on this car. I think it's gonna look amazing when it's done. And I don't know that we'll actually have to disassemble much more just to get that shock out. Probably gonna have to lower the control arm there. But anyway, real simple stuff if we have to. Went around the rear here to finish the other rear side so that I could get this car on the ground. And well, what do you know? I broke another part. So right here is our parking brake, or our brake shoe, and it's held in place with that little slot there by a spring. That spring was sitting there, but it's clear to me that the end of the spring, let's see if I can get this into focus, the end of the spring, this part right here, broke off. And so we need to get a new one of these. I went ahead, I've got it ordered. This spring was about $20 by itself. We only need one though. Once we get that, we'll be able to drop the car on the ground in the rear at least and do our body work on the other side. We're a couple days out for parts on this car, so in the next video, we're gonna move over to our body work. This shouldn't be too hard. There's just an indentation in the opposite corner over here. We're gonna heat that up, push it out, fill it up, and then make it look as new as possible. The front bumper though, this is gonna be a little bit more of a challenge. Now, the good news is this front bumper, this ended up being free. If you watched the last video, you know that the shipping company dropped it, damaged it, cracked it here, deformed it a little bit. But this is stuff I've seen a lot of people fix, and we're gonna try a method I haven't seen a lot on YouTube. We're gonna plastic weld the front crack in this bumper. The plastic welder kit was really affordable. It's like $15 at the budget parts store. So we're gonna plastic weld this up, we're gonna refinish it, prime it, and it should look darn near new when we're finished with it. I've never personally plastic welded before. This will be a first, and I always like trying out new methods, especially on cheap parts, free parts in this case. Now, the other cool thing when we paint this bumper, we're trying out a completely new paint system. It's called a turbine paint sprayer. Some of you guys might be familiar with it, but it doesn't require a huge compressor. You literally are using the system that's the size of about a toaster oven with a hose and a spray gun, and it is supposed to perform as good as what they do professionally in body shops. We're gonna find out if that's the case when we go to repair this bumper. So guys, make sure you stay tuned for that. If you're not already following me on Instagram, you can go right here and you will see the progress we make on the Porsche 911 before it shows up here on YouTube. Guys, thank you so much for watching today, and I will catch you very soon.